In this video, I'm going to be taking y'all through what I'm feeding my family of 6 for the entire weekend. So there are certain things I like to kind of have on hand for the weekend that is kind of family traditions, and I'm going to take y'all through that in this video today. So the weekend food prep typically starts on Thursday, and that is by feeding my sourdough starter. I have actually been not using active discard as often as I was. So I'm feeding my starter after making something. I'll let it I'll let it eat on the counter for a little few hours this afternoon, and then if I actually will need it tonight, but if I didn't need it tonight, I would just put it in the fridge, and then tomorrow, the next day when I needed to cook with it, I would just pull it directly out and cook with it. And I've learned that when you it hasn't affected the rise of my products. Now I haven't been making like beautiful artisan loaves. I've been making like sandwich loaves and things like that. So it may affect it if I was doing that, but for sandwich bread, it has not affected the rise of the bread, because essentially when you are feeding it and letting it get active and bubbly when you are doing the fermentation. So this Thursday afternoon, you see my daughter and I here mixing up some brioche dough to make donuts. This is a Farmhouse on Boone recipe that we wanted to try. They were amazing. I highly recommend trying these. Brioche sounds intimidating because it's a really wet bread, but if you need it for quite a while, whether you're doing stretch and folds or whether you're using your dough hook, the dough comes together beautifully. It is a very wet dough, but over time that gluten will form, and it's actually not that bad to work with. So we loved these. I like to make some sort of treat every weekend. I don't really want to call it a treat because I don't feel like the foods we eat are treats. They're just foods that nourish our bodies, but some sort of like sweet. So this weekend it was the brioche donuts. Sometimes I make a pie, which I'm still working on mastering my pies. If you've been following that journey, I haven't been able to make a lot because we've actually been out of butter in our store. It's been kind of low stock, and we haven't had enough cream right now. We're not in the spring months from our milk to make butter, so I'm still hoping to master that pie. I told y'all about it a while back. What I was saying is every weekend I like to make something, sort of a cake, cookies. This weekend we're making the donuts, but that's kind of just a little tradition for my family. I don't make desserts throughout the week, but on the weekends I make one thing, and that's what we enjoy through the weekend. Again, we don't look at it as a treat, we just look at it as a delicious dessert. We're also mixing up some sandwich bread. So this is the sandwich bread I was talking about that I do not use active bubbly starter. I'm using fed starter, so it's not true discard. I'm not using like the leftover discard, but I'm not using bubbly, fluffy, risen active starter. It is now Friday. We are mixing up the bread for the weekend. So I had planned to make a loaf of bread and then a stuffed bread, and that was kind of the weekend plan. I think we also mixed up the pizza dough here, yeah. But I'll talk about it later. The pizza dough did not turn out well. I'd like to show y'all the successes and the failures. So you're going to see a failure tonight when we do this pizza. So a lot of bread making and prep does happen on the forefront when you are cooking and baking like this. I used to get intimidated by that and think that it was just kind of overwhelming to cook multiple bread products at once. So I have pizza dough fermenting, sandwich bread fermenting. I'm working on the brioche donut, so it is kind of a lot. And I used to get really overwhelmed at that, but I've learned that it's just part of feeding my family, and I've learned to kind of just take joy in that. So if that is kind of intimidating to you, of course I always recommend starting with just one thing and not bulk fermenting all these things at once. But as you become more comfortable with it and exercise that skill, you will become much more comfortable at fermenting dough and grinding your flour and letting things rise and preparing them. So these donuts, we've already made another batch of them. I highly foresee this being a pretty popular weekend dessert for my family. So as I was frying the donuts, I thought about the scene in Farmer Boy, the Little House on the Prairie Farmer Boy books, where his mom is frying donuts and she talks about how she uses the twist. I think it's either a twist or just like a log shaped donut because they flip themselves in the frying oil versus her having to flip them. And I truly saw the value of that when I was flipping these donuts and making sure I did not burn one side, which a couple of them did get burned on one side. I was trying to multitask and not sitting right beside them watching them and flipping them, but I saw the value in her creating those donuts that flip themselves. This is the beautiful fluffy sourdough sandwich bread that I was telling you about. I'm going ahead and getting one loaf ready to bake. This normally I ferment this overnight. I prep the dough in the evening, let it ferment overnight, but I did prep this dough that morning and fermented it and let it ferment all day, and then I'm baking it later that evening. It's going into the loaf pan for its last 1 hour rise. Other half of the dough we'll be using tomorrow for the stuffed sandwich loaf that we're going to be cooking on Saturday. So you see these donuts, I dipped them in a little bit of cinnamon and powdered sugar. They were so fluffy, so soft, just delicious. So check out that recipe. I'll link it below. It's Farmhouse on Boone Brioche Donuts, but I did use a sourdough version. I think her original recipe is yeast. Instead of yeast, I just used sourdough and let them ferment, and obviously instead of doing the quick rise with the yeast. So such a good recipe. We will be making these again. So my camera died in the midst of making the pizza. So all you're seeing here is the final product of the pizza, but this pizza dough did not turn out well. I made this exact recipe the last 2 weeks. It was a new pizza recipe I had tried since switching to freshly milled flour, and it was delicious the last 2 weeks. And of course, like Friday night is a pizza night tradition for our family, and of course the night I go to film it, the pizza did not turn well. It was delicious, but the crust was not fluffy. I think I had, it was just too dry. So you didn't see the clips of me making it. And I did want to include here what I'm feeding my baby. So he is 7 months old. So he is eating some fresh butter that I did just cream and some liver pate. I've been asked before when I start salads or what I start my babies on salads, and it's usually egg yolks and liver pate and butter. So that's what he was eating here that you saw a little bitty clip of. It doesn't look appetizing, but he absolutely loves it. Moving to late night. This is what I was talking about, thinking ahead and prepping. So it is Friday. All my other children are in bed. My baby is ready for bed. I'm ready to get ready for bed, but I am mixing up some pancake batter. So I have been soaking our pancakes. These are like a basic soaked recipe from the Weston A. Price Nourishing Traditions book. I'll leave the recipe down below, but you basically soak your flour. This is freshly milled flour. I'm soaking it in milk or buttermilk overnight. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. 2 cups of flour, I've used freshly milled, and 2 cups of milk. That will soak overnight and just make the pancakes really delicious. There are health benefits. I don't soak all our grains. I do soak our oats, which you'll see me do some oats later in this video, but I have been experimenting with soaking some grains. You can ferment grains, you can soak them. I've been kind of experimenting with both. This first loaf of bread I baked right before bed, and I went to finish getting ready for bed. I let the loaf cool, as you see here, and I came back. My dogs had jumped on the counter and devoured almost the entire loaf. All they left was this top crust. So if y'all are enjoying this video, spending the weekend with me cooking some meals for my family, but I also want to chat a minute about high quality water sourcing. So I want to share with y'all about the sponsor of today's video, and that is Epic Water Filter. So this is a company that is committed to bringing high quality water to everyone at an affordable rate, no matter their lifestyle or their location. They develop products that go beyond basic water filtration. The health and well-being of their customers depend on the purity of the water they consume. What I love about them is the water filter goes right into the water bottle. So if you are just out and about and you're at a friend's house and they don't have filtered water, I always feel kind of petty when I want filtered water, but it really is of the utmost importance. What's so wonderful about this water filter is you can take this with you wherever and fill it up with water that you have access to. It does come with a filter that is just for tap water, and then it also comes with a filter for outdoor water. If you're out hiking, you can kind of see by the design of their water bottles, they are very enthusiastic about hiking and getting fresh water on the go, pure filtered water. The pitcher will filter your water anywhere from 3 to 5 months depending on the quality of your water. I love the pitcher because on the top you can set the date to remind you when to change it. What this is going to be perfect for us personally is for vacationing. In the past, when we've went on vacations, we've tried to take our heavier gravity fed water filter, which this one's also gravity fed, so you don't have to have any type of electric hookup. But anyway, this is a much smaller version than the other water filter we have, but we've tried to take it on vacations and traveling in the past, and it's very cumbersome to haul. This will be perfect to take on the go on vacations, and I've also just been keeping it on the counter because it's really easy for the kids to pour out of. Also going to be giving away one of these Epic Water Filter Pure Water Pitcher. So all you have to do to enter the giveaway is make sure you're subscribed to my channel, make sure you like this video, and leave a comment down below the video. Just let me know you're excited to win the water filter, you're excited to try out Epic Water Filters, clean water source, filtering so many contaminants out of our tap water, because that is truly why I think a lot of our society is sicker than we should be. If you're excited about trying one of these water pitchers, leave a comment down below. Let me know you would like to win them. I will pick a random comment to win this water pitcher. Make sure you check back in a week. That's when the giveaway will end, a week from this video posting. I'm excited to give one of these out to one of my sweet followers and let you try out Epic Water Filters. Thank you so much to Epic Water Filters for sponsoring this portion of today's video. And now we'll get back to our weekend of cooking meals for my family. Moving to Saturday morning, we're making pancakes. This is another Saturday morning tradition. We don't always have pancakes on Saturday mornings, and we also have them sometimes throughout the week, but my children love when Saturday morning pancake day happens. So that is kind of becoming a tradition. They do request it a lot, but who am I kidding? My children request pancakes every day if I wanted to cook them. So a couple of my children like their eggs cooked differently than my husband and I. We mostly like fried eggs, but I have a couple of children who like what we call cottage cheese eggs. So instead of making separate pans of eggs, I put all the eggs in the pan as you see here, and then add some cottage cheese or yogurt, whatever I have on hand. Sometimes I just add cream from the milk, and then stir it in, kind of scramble them. And then on the other side of the pan, I flip the fried eggs for my husband and I. And then one of my children actually just likes fried egg yolks, so I will just pull out the egg yolk from one of those fried eggs for that child. It's been how I navigate cooking eggs in one pan different ways. And those pancakes turned out delicious as well. Saturday for lunch, we are having that stuffed sandwich bread. So this is the loaf of bread that I let overproof just a little bit. I didn't put it in the fridge overnight because my kitchen has been pretty cold here lately, but it was warming up this weekend and I didn't even think to let it go in the fridge overnight to slow down the fermentation. So it's a little bit overproofed, but it still turned out delicious. I was able to stretch it out onto the pan and add some sausage, cheese, marinara sauce, some seasonings, and this is just a stuffed sandwich bread that's really delicious. We served it with some pickles and some applesauce for an easy Saturday lunch. We just butchered a couple of pigs, so this is some lard I'm rendering down. I have lots of lard in the freezer to render down, so I've basically just been trying to work on a batch a day. So all I do is chop the lard into small pieces, put it in the crock pot on low, and let it just cook all day. You can cook it on the stovetop, but you have to watch it much more closely, whereas the crock pot, I can just put it in here and walk away. I can come back and stir it a couple times, and it renders down in about 8 hours. I'm also working on some sauerkraut. We had some heads of cabbage from the garden that didn't grow that well. They didn't grow very tightly, so they couldn't store because there's a lot of air in the cabbage leaves. But they're perfect for sauerkraut. I used to try to massage the salt into the cabbage and make it sweat, which releases the water. But I've learned that if you just add the salt, walk away, come back a couple hours later, all of the liquid will have come out of the cabbage, and then it's ready to pack. You don't have to do any extra work. dinner Saturday night is typically breakfast for dinner. It's one of my children's favorite nights as well. We have a lot of our favorites on the weekend. I just like to make weekends fun. Don't usually go a lot of places on the weekends. Sometimes we do, and sometimes weekends are very busy. But when we have very relaxed, laid-back weekends, I like to cook a lot of their favorites. So we're having breakfast for dinner. I'm making crepes. This is actually not one of their favorites. They prefer to have pancakes or biscuits, but we were low on butter. Couldn't make biscuits. We'd had pancakes that morning. So we're having crepes. Again, these are delicious. It's just like an egg pastry type thing. They take some time to cook because you have to cook them one by one in a skillet and make sure it's well greased so it doesn't stick. You see some of mine here stuck. But breakfast for dinner is a favorite. We put it on a big cutting board and they kind of pick what they want, put their plates together. It's just a really fun night. So breakfast for dinner is always a hit. We have that at least once a week. The cabbage released this beautiful saltwater brine. I was able to mash it down. It's now like 8 o'clock. Children are already in bed and I'm still working in the kitchen. But that typically happens, especially if I choose to spend a lot of time outside with my family. There are usually some tasks that fall when it gets dark that I still have to tackle. This is not my preferred choice. It just happens sometimes. Sunday morning, we are having oatmeal. So this was my first time to cook oat groats. So if you don't know what oat groats are, it's basically the oat before it has gone through the roll process to make rolled oats, just the whole oat. It looks like a grain. I cooked them in the Instant Pot. I soaked them first of all. I cooked them in the Instant Pot for about 35 minutes. While that was cooking, I did go out and milk and get some other prep done for lunch and came back to perfectly cooked oat groats. Haven't ever tried oat groats or you've been kind of intimidated, you can cook them in the Instant Pot. You don't have to have an oat grinder to make oat groats into oatmeal. You can cook it right in the Instant Pot. It tastes just like oatmeal. So Sunday lunch is typically tacos. But I wanted something different today. I wanted to make some enchiladas. My husband had been wanting some enchiladas, so I thought this was a perfect way to change up our taco Sunday. Typically, I just make tacos and everybody stuffs their tacos how they want with their favorite toppings. Today I'm making enchiladas. So before church, I mixed up the enchilada sauce and cooked the meat. And then after church, I'm rolling out the tortillas. I wanted to roll the tortillas before church and get the enchiladas all rolled and put together and just have to bake them after church. But that didn't happen. So after church, I'm finishing up making the enchiladas and baking them. Wonderful helpers for Taco Sunday. They have really mastered making tortillas and it's actually a really big help. I've talked about this before, but letting your kids help in the kitchen when they're younger is quite a challenge because they more or less just make a mess. But as they get older, they actually become valuable help in the kitchen. My almost 4-year-old is amazing at rolling out tortillas now because I've been letting her help for the last 1.5 years or so. So she actually is a valuable helper now. So I always encourage you to bring your kids in the kitchen early, let them start helping you, and by the time they're 3, 4, 5, 6, even especially when they're older, they're gonna be such good kitchen helpers because you put in that work on the forefront when it wasn't so easy to have them in the kitchen helping you. But I promise you it pays off. I'm just starting to see the rewards of that work, and it's such a blessing to have really good kitchen helpers. I like to do one of two things here. I either like to pull everything together and make a stir-fry dish, or put everything out on a board and let it be a leftover platter where everyone can just choose what they want. So that's what we went with this night. Our hens have just started laying again. We're just getting back to some warm weather. We had an unusually hot day. As you see, I have on like a summer dress. It's the first weekend of February and we had 80-degree temperatures here in Mississippi. So our hens have started laying again. So we had a surplus of eggs where that has not been the case. So I was able to make boiled egg, adding some leftover enchiladas to this board, some of that leftover stuffed loaf bread from Saturday. I made some chocolate milk with extra collagen to go with it. And this is just an easy Sunday night dinner because typically we just want to relax and get on to bed, get the week going, and just an easy way to clean out the fridge. I've also done this with stir fry. I'll just take anything in the fridge, dump it into a pan with rice. I hope you enjoyed spending the weekend with us, seeing what I'm cooking for my family of 6, and I will see y'all in a future video.